Hey guys, Thunderstud here, ready to take you way back to a time where things were much different than they are now. Let's say about 2.5 years ago, when Duel Links was still new, Sphere Kuriboh and Mirror Wall were the best cards in the game, and I had only been playing for 32 days, so this is my very first King of Games deck. I got King of Games 32 days after playing. Let's start with what King of Games used to be. It was a much different season. It was much easier to climb, but the season was much shorter. Your King of Games seasons used to be just a week long, and it would reset. But there was no Legend tier, and Platinum was easier to get through. I think the only time you had to get 5 in a row was Platinum 5-2 King of Games. Everything else was very easy, 3 in a row. I think it was 3 in a row to lose, all straight up, so it was much easier to climb. And there were no archetypes, like you really didn't have any archetypes, so people were just running chaotic decks. 1700 was the base beater, so the strongest boy all around was Jerry Beansman. He's a super rare normal. It's just a level 3, 1750 with 0 attack, so that's virtually useless in the current state of Duel Links. But during this time, he was like the meta. He was the strongest. He was so OP. You wanted 3 of them. He was fantastic. Another card that was very strong that you would just splash into a lot of your decks were Twin Barrel Dragons. So you might not even know about him. You get him from the card trader. He has a 25% chance to destroy a card. And so he targets one card, toss 2 coins. If they're both heads, that card's just destroyed. That was huge early on in Duel Links. A 25% chance to destroy something was really big. Nothing else had anything like that. It was very cool. Another card that saw a lot of niche play, it was a very popular staple early in Duel Links. You saw it in tons of decks, is Leotar. Leotar, this card battles a non-normal monster. This card gains 500 attack during the damage step only. So being a 2000 beater was so big for Leotar, and everything was really not normal because the only normal decks running around were Order to Charge, and they weren't really super relevant yet. So really, Twin Barrel Dragon was your strongest card. Jerry Beansman, these were the cards you wanted. You just went through for them pretty much. This was probably your most consistent boss monster, was Divine Grace. We only have 1 Senju and 1 Sonic Bird buried in there somehow. As for Fuel, we had 2 level 7 monsters because she's level 7. We have 4s and 3s with our monsters, so that also makes 7. So we have a normal Barrel Dragon and a Song of the Thunder. Sangha used to just be a strong monster with their effects. It's during damage calculation of your opponent's turn. If this card's being attacked, you turn their attack to 0. They take a bunch of damage. You can do that once per duel. Very strong card. You use him with what was Kaiser Seahorse. So 2 cards that were huge in the meta in the very early days of Duel Links was this Kaiser Seahorse and his counterpart. I think it's called Double Coston. And they count for 2 tributes for a light. Double Coston counts as 2 tributes for a dark. I never had a double Coston, but you get your Kaiser Seahorse. You could normal summon a Sangha for 1. That was huge. You could normal summon a Blue Eyes. People would actually do that. It was actually pretty cool. Way back in the meta. So like I said though, Sphere Kuriboh and Mirror Wall were so strong. So strong. They were just the strongest cards in the game, so you always went for them. Metamorph, people were sleeping on it, but it was still pretty relevant. This card too, Ryoku, it's a hard word to say, was a really useful card, relevant. 4-star Ladybug, absolutely crazy. It would work against everything but Jerry Beansman. Jerry Beansman was just so strong, guys. Twister is in here just for the mirror match of Wonder Balloons. Wonder Balloons was also another very popular card to just splash in your deck, lower their attacks. Attack was very important. People were counting 1700 versus 1750, lowering by 300. Little equipped cards all over the place, guys. Baboons gaining 300 attack. all sorts of little crazy things. So obviously even with Switcheroo, sorry you can't even see the full deck list. Even with Switcheroo, this deck wasn't very consistent. It was a 30 card mess. That was enough to get King of Games. I have a Reddit post. I made an original Reddit post for this King of Games match. I have proof and everything, all the numbers. I'll post it into the description. Very weird, very funny deck to have a good laugh at, that this was once King of Games worthy, guys. Absolutely crazy. But I recreated it, tried to get some wins. It was as hard as you could imagine, but I hope you guys enjoy the replays, and thanks for watching. What was mostly unfair about early Duel Links is Japan had an early launch. They had like a month head start on us, and that's significant. That's really significant. A month to just be tossed in the same player pool and everything. So you could be running into people with multiple mirror walls and multiple sphere Kuriboh, which were they were just what won you duels. Sphere Kuribohs and mirror walls were the cards. So if they had multiple of that, you were just gonna lose. You were just gonna swing with your little beaters, use order to charge, and eventually lose. So here, as you can see, we have our Grace. She's pretty much your main boss monster. We're fighting Slowbooks. They're doing their whole thing. While they're doing that, I'll explain. So these are why these two monsters are in here. Pretty much for the Grace's fuel. Grace was just your strongest monster, really, with 2700. Only a Blue Eyes could get over at the time, and they usually didn't. So that's literally what you were using. She was just a 27 beater you could get out of your hand pretty easily. Where it's really MVP'd is the Wonder Balloons. Wonder Balloons would just shut down people's decks. They had to run Twister just for Wonder Balloons. All those things. So what she does, she'll anchor onto something to where she's not affected by monster effects as long as what she's anchored onto stays on the field. Pretty weird. So we go to his. I use my Wonder Balloons, but I don't put any tokens on it. He uses a Fate on my Grace. We still had a Sonic Bird to attack him. He uses Spellbook of Eternity, but cannot do anything further. He had to use Restart, so I believe that's why he's breaking. We summon the Jerry Beansman. That was your ideal duels. You wanted Jerry's Beansman, you wanted your Grace, and you wanted Barrel Dragon. You just wanted to swing with all the Barrel Dragons and go crazy. So very early on in Duel Links, people would just disconnect like crazy. I think Super originally, before it might have even been out here, it might have just been out here, it had it where if you just disconnected a match, it wouldn't count towards your lose streak or something crazy like that. And so people were ingrained into the habit of automatically disconnecting. Even, you know, that bug was patched out in like a week, but it was just so ingrained to people to not surrender, to actually disconnect. So you'd have to wait for the responding and all that kind of stuff. So it was pretty brutal back in the day. So this would have been an absolute god hand back in the day trying to get King of Games. You start with Jerry Beansman, you're legit. You get your Grace out. She anchors onto something. You're immune to monster effects. You use this, the field spell, or it's not a field spell, it's a ritual effect. You can use it from the graveyard, target her. She now can't be targeted by effects for the rest of the turn. Kind of redundant as long as you're anchored. And yeah, that's just swinging. You got that 1750 monster out there, and Grace was just extra, guys. Ritual monsters were just pretty easy to get out, and if you had any Senju and Sonic Birds, you were already ahead of the game, so it was pretty easy stuff. So recreating this deck was a ton of fun for me. I don't know if you guys really care. I hope you at least find it funny, taking a peek into the past of cards that used to be relevant in Duel Links. It's like a time before archetypes. There were no archetypes. Like, I think I'm calling it gimmicks in the Reddit post. There's no gimmicks. Really funny stuff. So here we get a little more complicated at hand. Setting Kaiser Seahorse was always good because 1650 is actually relevant defense. Here we get hit with Gyoku, the fire formation. It's blocking our Twister. That's really okay. we just top deck into a Grace. We set one monster. Get another Barrel Dragon, that's just for a Grace. So like in every replay, it's just as long as you get your Grace out, you're gonna win. It's virtually the only win condition of the deck. Shrinks us there with 1300, shrinks our boy there with 1850. That's, guess what, 100 off lethal. Not exactly lethal, but that's okay. We're still swinging at him. He bounces. So this deck was a mess. You used to just wait on your 4-star Ladybug, sit back, or you'd get Baboon out and he would save you. Just a bunch of outs. Baboons, Leotar, 4-star Ladybug, you wait for them for outs. You're using Wonder Balloons to discard everything. It was such a different time. Different just staples crammed into whatever strongest monster you could afford and get. It was pretty funny. Every trap was Mirror Wall and all the times you knew it and all that stuff. But so I hope you guys found this interesting. At least it was a lot of fun for me to actually go back and revisit this deck. So I hope you guys have had a good time seeing how far I've come personally from King of Games. But yeah, 2.5 years ago, guys, what was King of Games worthy back then? Pretty crazy. And